Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Welcome to V-Talks. I'm your host, Veronica Brockwell. Well, I'm very happy that you tuned in tonight. I have the lovely ladies from Seahorse Behavioral here, and we're going to talk about the importance of self-love and how that can lead to happiness. And we're going to give you lots of reasons why self-love is so important and tools that you can use to love yourself better. We also have a sponsor this evening, and I wanted to give a shout out to Blurred Lines Med Spa in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. We're going to be giving away a red carpet facial tonight to one lucky winner. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to do that midway through the show. So let's get started with the show. I'm going to bring on my ladies from Seahorse. So we have Brianne Lienkamp and Hannah Chapman. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
You look lovely.
Yeah. So do you.
We missed you.
I know. I missed you too. We were supposed to have our show for Valentine's, and we had a little stormy storm.
Little one. We were long overdue, though.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very true. But we didn't have power, and I don't think a lot of people had power, so it was probably a good idea not to have the show anyway.
Yeah.
But without power, we can't really load the podcast properly, and it can, all sorts of stuff that can happen. So at least tonight, it's lovely and amazing, and we can get started.
Yeah, which is good because I think later this week we're up for another storm and more power outages. So this is
I hope not.
a great time.
I actually got a notification today from Eversource.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yes.
I didn't know. Well, maybe my husband did. I'm not sure.
I didn't know. Like I wasn't even paying attention, and I'm like, notification that there's going to be down trees, power outages. I'm like, what? Not today.
Is it just rain or is it snow?
I know. Hello, everyone. I know we're talking about the weather, but I don't know. This just occurred today, and I didn't really have time to further investigate. Maybe one of our viewers can let us know about the weather. But I don't know. All right. So, but tonight we're going to love ourselves better. Right?
I love it.
Yes, I know. So a couple of things. Let's talk about why loving ourselves is so important. Do you want to take that, Brianne?
Yeah, sure. I think it just sets the foundation for so many aspects of our relationships, our personal well-being. It impacts our self-esteem, our confidence. It really is the foundation. If you have a good foundation, you build a good house. And that's the same thing here. If you love yourself, you can add on and add on and add on in your life. And it really, truly does make you feel happier.
And what exactly is self-love?
Yeah, I mean,
in your opinion.
In my opinion. I mean, I think that means like a little something different for everybody. But basically it's, coming to a place of like care, acceptance, and valuing yourself unconditionally. Treating yourself with kindness, compassion, putting your, prioritizing yourself and your well-being. If you have like, if you love yourself and you value yourself, that's going to drive how you treat yourself and take care of yourself, whether that's emotional or physical, and like allows you to kind of avoid letting like other people or things like put you down. And then again, that can mean something different to everybody. I don't think it has to be this, I think I'm the most wonderful person in the whole world. It can just be this place of almost like some just neutrality of like, I like who I am and I like, how other people see me, and, that's and that's fine. And for other people, it can look a little bit different too.
Well, and that's kind of a nice segue into this particular topic, because I think people need to understand from a professional what is the difference between self-esteem, self-love, and narcissism, which is a personality disorder.
Yeah, I think narcissism is a very, very challenging diagnosis. It's, I would say, the hardest one that we actually have to manage in the outpatient environment. It just has so many extensions that come from it, with entitlement, with gaslighting behaviors, with really manipulating a lot of situations. And it's very traumatic for people that are in these relationships. And there's also that level of trauma for that person, maybe, who has built this personality for themselves as a coping strategy due to their own traumas. So it's a very big onion with many different layers.
But I think sometimes some people assume that if you have a big, confident personality, and this might actually stem from all of the TikTok videos and all the things that are out there regarding narcissism. But I think they feel that if you have a big personality, or if you're confident, or if you put yourself first, that you're a narcissist. So how would we make that differential?
Well, I mean, I think it's important, just to Brianne's point, to remember that like narcissism is like an actual, like, it's a diagnosed personality disorder. So there's like a clinical, like, mental health component to what is going on with that person. I really think, like, also at the end of the day, like, intention behind those feelings is important. So, when you think of someone who's like a true narcissist, like, they don't really care as much about other people and, how their actions are. I don't know. I think there's a huge difference between that and someone who's like, I'm confident, I like who I am. And, their intention behind that is very good. It's an intention of trying to be kind to oneself, and in return, usually, like, allow that to spread to other people. Whereas, like, if you really think of it from a narcissist perspective, that they're not really thinking about anybody else except themselves. Like, there's no intention behind that except me.
That's right.
It,
Well, and they lack empathy. Am I correct there? They just don't
there's
have.
definitely a barrier there. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not that like reciprocal thing that I think we've talked about with this self-love. If I love myself, I can give that back to other people and receive it. I don't think there's that thought process isn't there as much with maybe folks who struggle with more of like the personality disorder side of things.
Because it's almost, in a lot of ways, trying to get something. If I'm nice to you, I can get something. And I can turn around and be mean to you, and then I can be nice to you and manipulate you into thinking that I cared about you the whole time, I loved you this whole time. With someone who has confidence from self-esteem, you really are empathetic. You feel good about yourself. You have that foundation of self-care and self-love, and you can put that into other people. And that's the difference. You don't feel bad about the behaviors that you have. If maybe you had an altercation with somebody who it's you can turn around and say, I'm sorry, and really mean it, versus someone who has that narcissistic personality. They're not going to care. It's just, I can be nice to you because I'm trying to get something from you.
Right. Yeah. So very different. So, it's important for people to understand that there is a difference between the two. And you've outlined that really, really well, until we fully love ourselves, we're never able to truly love others. How do you feel about that statement?
I'm smiling
Be
because
honest.
no, this
That's
is I'm
why
gonna be.
we're here.
Are you ready for the honesty?
I'm so ready for the honesty.
No,
Let's do it, Anna.
I am smiling because one of my all-time favorite shows is RuPaul's Drag Race, and literally the quote for the show. Can I say the H word? H-E double hockey sticks. Can I say that?
Oh, please.
All right. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So the number one, like the whole theme of the show is like, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Can I get an amen up in here? And that's what they say like all the time on the show, and I love it. So yeah, I mean, what do I think about it? I think it is like to what Brianne said, it's the foundation of the house. You know what I mean? If you don't love yourself, you can't give or receive. It's hard. It's not that you can't, but it's going to be very challenging for you to give or receive love if you don't think you're worthy of it yourself.
Yeah. And take that love in and do something good for yourself with it, and do good for other people too. I think that's so true. And I think we see really this philosophy. I think where drag has really become so popular, it's because what do we see? Confidence, self-love,
right,
community, relationships, equality. I do. I just feel like this is a movement for everybody, and it puts a smile on your face. If you love yourself, like you're bringing that with you in any room that you go into, and it's genuine.
It's genuine. All right, so we're gonna help people maneuver through this, and we're gonna teach people how to love themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first, stop comparing. Why is this so important?
Well, it's funny because I think we've talked a lot with you on the show about like cognitive behavioral therapy, and how we've used these like little CBT, manuals with our patients. And this is like actually one of like the cornerstones of like deconstructing like negative thoughts about yourself, which is to stop comparing yourself to other people. We talk about this a lot, especially with like the kids that we work with and the teenagers, because it's like a natural thing to do. We're naturally going to compare ourselves to others. But there's a difference between maybe admiring things about others and wanting to maybe like push yourself to do those things, and putting yourself next to another person and saying, well, I'm not as good as that person, or I'm not as pretty as them, or, and I think today, especially with social media and TikTok and Instagram, and, it's so easy to do because it's literally like right in your face. It smacks you in the face 24/7,
and filters.
Right. Well, exactly. Correct. And that's actually a great point is we also have to remember, are you comparing yourself to something that's like actually not even real, which most likely, you most likely are, because social media is just people are always going to put the perfect picture of what's going on in their life. So that's a great point. You're comparing yourself most of the time to a false reality, really.
We see it all the time. I mean, we have social media. I mean, we have people that follow us, we follow other people, and just the nature of our job, we have the insider scoop of really what's going on, and it's often totally different than what is being presented to the community and to the social media. And I think there's a difference between doing these things for you, filters and extensions and lashes and lip fillers, and I think if you're doing all of these things, but you're doing them for you and it makes you feel good, it makes you feel confident and gives you self-esteem. I mean, all the injectables or the weight loss medications, it's, if you're doing it for you, it's a totally different thing than doing it to be like somebody or to look like somebody that truly might not even exist.
Right. Well, you're right, because the finished product that you're trying to compare yourself to, I'm sure was not that before.
Right.
And that is, another transition of, we compare ourselves to other people, but everybody's on a different journey. Everybody's, in a different time of their lives. They've made different turns. They've, gone down different roads. They had, different goals. So you can't, it's not apples to apples.
No.
Yeah.
And you never know somebody's journey. I mean, people go through different types of cancers. I mean, they lose their hair potentially. They might have completely gray hair after they go through chemotherapy or, autoimmune skin conditions or have to have surgical procedures or been in motor vehicle accidents. I mean, it's so true. Everybody's journey is so different. And if you can just be happy with you and not compare yourself to someone, if you've had these challenges in your life, if you can embrace that, it really gives you that confidence to go forward. And, I think if you do have that philosophy of having to compare, it just snowballs out into many other things we're going to talk about tonight.
And one, stop worrying about other people's opinions. Let's talk about that one. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
And they're all big, but I don't know.
Well, think about like high school. Like we've had this conversation about
it doesn't change.
being put yourself back in high school.
I swear it doesn't change.
All the worries that you had about everything. What do I wear? What did I, have for the label of my clothes? Who was I hanging out with? What kind of car was I driving? I mean, I just helped out with like the senior superlatives night. And
oh, right.
What is it? But it's like, who has the best car? Who has the best smile? Like, who has the best this? Who has the best that? And, I'm like, they still do this. And like, there's a fun component of it, but there's like a group of people that might always be represented. And then you have a whole group of people who are never represented in that. And like, what does that feel like for that whole entity who never has that ability to be the best at something, even though they have so many things that they're the best at that isn't highlighted in that type of environment?
You hope that they move on and become that bright light later.
Yeah.
Once they get out of that bubble, right? You hope for that, but it doesn't always happen. Yeah, as you guys know. I think that worrying about other people's opinions, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can get 100 compliments and then you get one insult, and what keeps you up at night?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, I think because like we all strive to, be fully accepted by others. And, sometimes, who knows, maybe that one thing that someone has said to you is pinging, some really big insecurity that you have. Oftentimes that's probably exactly what it is. I mean,
oh, that's good to know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I think back to, like I'm someone that's like, I've struggled with my weight a lot, and that's always been like a really big insecurity of mine. And it, certainly came into play with my like self-love journey. And, it's, I've had people compliment me so many times, and, but I can honestly tell you, and I think anyone, especially women, I'm sorry, I know it happens to everybody, but every single woman will relate to the fact that like you will remember every single time that someone says something about your body or about your weight, or you just never, I could rattle some off to you. You never forget. And you're so right, because it's like over the course of my life, like, like, of course people have said nice things, but those things, they stick with you. And why? It's because it's a massive insecurity of mine. So if I worry about those things, it's very uncomfortable to think that someone else is picking up on something that I think about myself. Like that's a very, very uncomfortable. And I think for me, at least, that's where that comes from, is like, if I'm already not liking that about myself and someone else like holds up a mirror to my face about it, that's a really tough pill to swallow.
So can you give us some coping strategies for trying to not worry about other people's opinions? Are there things that you tell your patients that obsess on this?
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this conversation with someone earlier today, which was like 90% of the time when someone is saying something, I would even say 99.9% of the time when people are being nasty and like, just saying unkind things or sharing negative opinions, it's because they don't like themselves. Like nice people who like themselves and genuinely care about other people don't say mean things to other people. It's as simple as that.
I can't even, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't put value in something that someone has to say when it's probably coming, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I think as you get older, you get to that point where it's just like, I'm really sorry that you're just that like miserable of a person that you feel better putting other people down. Like, that's really sad for you.
Yeah. And it's changing that negative self-talk. I
Right.
mean, we do a lot with like positive self-statements and, something easy.
Like, you're like a good girl.
Yeah, put a Post-it note up. Yeah, like put that Post-it note up on the mirror. Like, I painted my daughter's nails the other day red. She was having a tough day, and I'm like, like, look at your nail. Like, this is bad. Like, like you're confident, and if you're feeling like you're not, like, look down. Like, you got this. And it's changing that narrative of not letting that negative self-talk trigger more negative self-talk, and really being able to say, nope, I'm challenging that negative thought, and I am independent, and I am smart, and I am, not going to fear what's going to happen in the course of my day. I don't care if I don't get an A. I don't care if so and so doesn't like me anymore. If they don't want to be my friend, they don't want to be in a relationship with me anymore. Like, whatever, I'm fine without you. And and it really is. I think when you are insecure and then you have that negative self-talk in addition to other people's negativity on top of that, then you really start to put yourself at risk for like depression, anxiety, social anxieties. I don't really want to put myself in that situation, so I'm just going to isolate.
Okay. So we have to stop worrying about what other people think and what their opinions are. That doesn't matter. So they're projecting, a lot of times they're just projecting their stuff on you.
Yeah. And how good does that feel? Like, I remember like having that moment probably in college, just saying, who cares? Like,
it's an epiphany when you can do that. Yes.
Yeah. So you look back at all of the things that you've been through, whether it's like divorce or loss, or, I mean, we all go through so much every single day. We all can share a story. And when you can come to that place of, I just don't care anymore about that, it is such a relief in so many different ways. I just challenge people to just try to get there, because it changes your life.
It's interesting. One of the pages that we're broadcasting to now, actually two of them, but one in particular is my favorite page. I don't want to say what it is, but they'll know who it is. And it's a local page, and I love it more than anything. But I get eviscerated pretty often. Somebody gets upset and they don't like the answer, and it's behind the scenes and what have you. And I have learned to just know that they're just upset because they aren't able to do what they want to do on the page. And all the stuff that comes out of their mouth is just more like anger because they're frustrated. A lot of times they don't even know me, and So it's, I've had to try to put in some coping mechanisms for myself and put up some boundaries for myself, because it can get tough sometimes and so I've been working on that and I usually don't think about it after it's done, for just maybe a minute or two, and it doesn't happen. I mean, some things are worse than others, but I've just had to take a step back and go, you know what, this isn't really about me, and you just have to let them, we all need to, sometimes you're the last resort, maybe they've had a really bad day and there's all this other stuff going on, and you're, your last resort for them, so that's kind of what I do,
Yeah.
And you
seems to work for me.
And you can't feed into it. We have each other when we're in that situation. We have a nationwide stimulant shortage right now. It's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do with it. We can't go make Adderall and Ritalin, and we can't make these drugs. And we totally understand, like, these medicines help people function, and it's very frustrating, but it's something that we've had to deal with. Like, why can't you send it? Why don't you send it right away? I'm at the pharmacy, and it's like, I think it's, again, like this society, like, we need it now, we need to do it. And then we're going to be like nasty about it if we don't get it, and not thinking about, well, like, what is the whole process? What is the bigger picture here? And, sometimes we just have to tell ourselves, we're not robots. Like, we can only do so much. Like, we can only do so much. We're doing the best that we can. And, and you can't just let it take over. You just have to say, like, that's the way it is. Like, you just put the barrier, put the boundary, moving on. I did the best I could today. And in the situation where there's still hard times from COVID, there's still hard times.
And then put it away and dance around your kitchen. In your underwear.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll talk about it.
Right. You just have to.
You do.
I've we're horse girls. I don't think you are, Hannah. Maybe. No?
Oh, I mean, I like horses. I don't have any horses.
Well,
I wish I did.
So I kind of equate it to, like, you have a horse and you are trying to desensitize the horse, for example, to a tarp, and the horse is like, a giant, Godzilla could show up and the horse would be fine, but that tarp or a plastic bag is like the scariest thing on the planet. And so you have to just keep desensitizing the horse. And then after a while, the horse is like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're cool. You just have to neutralize all that, right?
Yep.
All right, let's move on, because we have a lot to talk about, but so stop comparing and stop worrying about other people's opinions. I like this one. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Why is that important?
Another thing I talked about with someone earlier, like, these things we talk about. I'm laughing.
This is Hannah's day in a nutshell.
Another conversation I had this morning with someone.
Okay.
I mean, I relax your expectations on yourself. It's having good self-esteem and self-love. It's good to have expectations. That's a good thing, right? You always want to strive to be your best self. And at the same time, you need to relax some of those expectations, because sometimes we put too high of expectations on ourselves. And I think when we don't meet those expectations, we can come down pretty hard on ourselves. We all make mistakes. Like Brianne said it 2 seconds ago, we're not robots. And honestly, thank God we make mistakes, because you don't even learn. How can you learn how to do better if you don't make a mistake? And especially, in nursing, oh my goodness, like, that was one of the things I used to be the most terrified of. Like, I can't make it, I would come down so hard on myself if I made a mistake. And I hate to say it, because, like, obviously it's scary, because we're working with, like, these are serious things that we're working with. But I always, like, used to tell myself, this was where I think my confidence came in, was that, I might make a mistake, but I know that I am careful enough that I'm not going to hurt anybody, like, because I'm confident enough that I won't let myself make that big of a mistake. But if I made a mistake, I'm a human. I have to, like, be compassionate towards myself. And you can't, if you have that type of expectation of yourself that you're never going to fail, you're going to be very, very disappointed. You're setting yourself up for failure by telling yourself that you can't fail.
Well, and I think, too, you're going to be afraid to try new
Right.
things.
Exactly.
I have a lot of friends who I adore so much, but they'll tell you my favorite line is analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Because they won't jump. They won't, big idea people, but they just, they've got to overthink it, perfection, anxiety. And I'm like, no, it's never going to be how you want. And and it's always going to be changing, and things are always going to be fluid. You just got to go. You just got to go. It's okay. One of the things that I do and that I've learned to do is I laugh at myself.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not in the hospital setting. That might not be appropriate. You can err there, like, whoops. But,
no, not like that.
But I think, just having a sense of humor about making a mistake and, feeling remorse if it hurts somebody, obviously, but if it doesn't hurt anyone and you make a mistake or you didn't do, just kind of like, oh, wow, I wish I had done differently. I didn't. So I'm going to learn from this. And, oh, whoops, I don't know. I mean, that's something that I use that helps me a little bit, that I don't take things as seriously now, but I am older. So it took me a while to get here.
Well, even just like breaking it down, when you make a mistake, just why did it happen? What could I do differently? How could I do it differently next time? There are big mistakes. People make big mistakes at work, and it might cost them their job, and it might really be an impact on someone's business or on their relationships or their schooling. But, you're changing how your brain is going to react to that situation the next time. If you could just say, I own up to it. This is what happened, but why did it happen? And, and it could be a system-wide problem, like in the hospital. Like I made a mistake because they didn't have a good system in place, and that's how much of that is really my fault. And I'm not going to go home and beat myself up over it because I gave the wrong medication when 2 medications with the same name are right there next to each other. And, so it's like, if you can break it down, it makes you realize that you can maybe avoid it in the future or change how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think like that just reminds me of when we working in the hospitals, that was something that actually a long time ago, when you make a mistake in the hospital, we have to file usually something called they used to call them incident reports. That's what they used to be called, because there was a connotation of like, you're going to be punished because you've done something wrong, and what it would like dissuade like nurses and staff from filing them because we were afraid that it was going to be punitive and you were going to get in trouble. Well, they really tried to change the culture around that, because what we realized was exactly what Brianne said. Like, if I've made that mistake, there's a very high likelihood someone else probably did too. And it unearths like system problems, and it became more of a culture of like reflection. They actually changed the name to safety reports, at least at the Brigham where I used to work, intentionally to kind of remove that like negative, thing that comes along with like making a mistake, because like we need to point out if there are safety problems that are, around that we're not picking up on. So, if you kind of look at your own life like the same way, like, are there system problems in my life? You know what I mean? Have I made this mistake like over and over again of maybe like choosing the wrong relationships for myself or surrounding myself with people that like aren't good for me? Well, is there a system problem here? Like, and how can I file that safety report and change gears for something different, So if we're doing it, if you really think about it, right, like we do it on these massive scales in organizations. So like, why wouldn't you do that on a smaller scale in your own life, and how many times have we all said to our coworkers or ourselves, like, it's okay. Like, you're not in trouble. Like, I mean, gosh, I've said that so many times. You think of it the same way for you. You know what I mean? Like, you're not in trouble. It's okay. Like, you made a mistake. We're going to fix it next time, or we're going to work a way around it for next time.
All right. That is such a good point, though. I love how you were comparing that to us. I mean, no, it's true, though,
It's
right?
so true, though.
It's so true. I love you, ladies, so much. I do. This is why you're here, because you can put it all in perspective. We are this one. Hannah, you were touching upon this a little bit earlier. But we're gonna hit your value does not rely on your looks. This is just, I don't know what it is in society and why we are the way we are, like how this occurred. When did this start? Has it always been? But we are very, very hard on ourselves. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do a lot of work with geriatrics. And so I'm seeing people in their 80s, 90s and up. It's a lot of what I spend my day with, people that lived in a different generation. And no one ever says to me, I am worried about how I'm going to look in the next 5 years. I might not be around in 5 years. And I which is true. It could be true if they're 80. They're like, that never comes out of their mouth. What comes out of their mouth is, how can I be a better friend? My friend has dementia.
Oh,
I can take them to the doctor's appointment. I can go bring them food. I can help out my children. I can go watch my grandchildren. I can make a meal for them. No one is ever saying, I didn't get my lashes put on this week. I'm due for my filler. Like, have you seen these new hair extensions? Like, I'm going tanning, but they're still doing self-care activities. They're going and socializing with their friends. They're knitting, they're swimming, they're challenging themselves in other ways, which I just love being around that mentality. I just love it. I feel like there's just so many life lessons that come from a generation that does not care one bit about how they look.
Yeah.
All right. So on that, how do we help people not put so much into that when in terms of loving yourself? Because loving ourselves is, if you're doing it for yourself, right? We talked about this a little earlier, right? Relying on our looks. Can you sort through that to relate really back to the self-love?
Well, I mean, it's interesting with what Brianne said about all of these patients that she's working with, and think of like all of those things that they're talking about, what they value, and none of them have to do with looks, because it's the truth. I mean, we know this is so cliche, but like, looks fade, they certainly do. And really,
well, with filters, I'm really not sure.
I know. And AI and all that other stuff.
I don't know about this. Yeah, go ahead.
But like, what is it? No, but you're right. But like, what is it really? I mean, yes, of course, if you feel good about how you look, that can help your self-esteem. But when you really talk about, I think part of really like loving yourself is placing value on things that are like really, really important, right? And I just don't think at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of life, looks are not that important. Like, it's good to feel good about yourself. It's good to look in the mirror in the morning and say, you know what, I like what I see. You know what I mean? But when you talk about goals in life, unless you're a narcissist, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna say, how many people
we're doing that next.
No, I know.
It's been on our list, personality disorders, and we haven't gotten to that show. And I know that that's going to be a hot topic.
Yeah, but I mean, how many people really at the end of their life, look back and say, I wish I was prettier. Like, no, like I don't hear that a lot. We hear people say, I wish I spent more time with my parents, or I wish I pushed myself further to, to go for that job that I didn't think I could get. Like, again, I'm not saying that not liking yourself or presenting yourself, in a way that's reflective of how you care about yourself isn't important. That's a totally different thing. But when it really comes down to like what's important, it's not important. Like what you look like does not, it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it's not as important as everything else. And I think Brianne sees older folks, and I work with a lot of younger populations of people. And so I'm seeing actually the opposite problem, where there is a lot of comparison, and I'm not as pretty as this person, or I don't have as big of muscles as this guy that I saw on Instagram, or, and the only thing I can say to that is what I've said 4 million times already on this show is like, Marie Kondo your life, Marie Kondo your social media. If you are on something online and it doesn't bring you happiness, and it doesn't spark joy, and it doesn't make you feel good about yourself, then get rid of it.
Nice segue.
Oh, didn't even mean to do that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Because I and if you surround yourself with good people and you feel good about yourself, like, I think all of those things that people do for self-care, like spending time in the salon and really taking that time for you, I think could really help a lot of people that have like social anxiety and generalized anxiety, because let's face it, how you look does impact how other people look at you.
Correct.
Looks don't define you, but they certainly can play a role in who gets that job, who has that first opportunity to maybe even get into some colleges during college interviews. I think there are definitely benefits of having that self, of being presentable and having good looks, but what is the meaning behind it? I feel like it's the whipped cream and the cherry on top of a good, strong foundation, and really enjoying that time. I mean, I know time is limited, and being able to go get a haircut, or being able to go get your makeup done and your eyebrows done, I mean, it makes you feel good. You come out and you feel good. And that's where women
But that
can support
gives
each
you
other.
the confidence. If that can give you confidence,
Right.
Exactly.
That's when it works.
Right.
Exactly.
Or
But
if it's like
doing it for you.
It's
Right, exactly,
It's the self-love. If that makes
exactly.
you feel good, then that's self-love, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am not sitting here saying, look, I got a full beat on my face. I have a full face of makeup on, okay? But
you want to I wore eyeshadow.
I mean, I have a full
face. I dressed up for you tonight.
But you know why I did it?
But I don't have on false lashes.
Feel good. That's why I don't have those either. But it makes me feel good, and that's why I do it. Because when I put my makeup on, I'm like, oh, I like it. This is fun, and it's so like like it's intention is. You cannot stress the importance of that enough.
Yeah. And look at how like you're regarded. Like you come on and you're like, you look good, you look good, you look good. Like it makes you feel good that everyone thinks you look good. It's like, but I feel good, so we want everyone else
because I'm not doing it for all you people and all you ladies on this show. I'm doing it for myself.
I have to say, I did it for you.
Right. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so let go of toxic people. Why is this important?
They take your energy. They take your time. They take your energy. It's stress, and stress on your body is not good. You've done a lot of shows about inflammation, and, we're already up against so many environmental factors that, we have to protect ourselves and be as healthy as we can be. And if you allow toxic people to suck all of your energy out, what do you have to give for yourself? What do you have to give to your kids or your partners or your work situation? It is like you're up against a wall when you're being dragged down by people that are just taking advantage of usually the nice person that you are. And you're giving and giving and giving, and nothing's being given back.
Well, it's interesting. For me personally, I don't care if I give and someone doesn't give me back like something, because for me, it's just like how I look at life. When I give something, I know it will come back in another way. If it doesn't, I don't have an expectation. Like, I just like to do things. And I always know that somewhere along the way, it's going to come back. It has been consistent with me in my life. Just how I look at life. But, I think when, for me, the toxic people are just the mean people that are mean to other people, that are, gossip about other people, all that. I can't, I can't do that.
Yeah,
So like, I can't, I just remove myself. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And so that I did that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I just said, you can tell.
Yeah. And what did we talk about earlier too? Like, people that treat other people like that, they don't really have a lot of love for themselves, most likely.
Right.
So, don't you want to surround yourself with positive energy if you're on this journey of, being nice to yourself and being kind to yourself and loving yourself? Then you want to surround other people who also feel that way. You know what I mean? So you can lift up each other, not be around other people that are going to tear you down. And who are probably only, like I said, tearing you down because they don't like who they are either. So, it just.
And you will open up doors. I mean, I can tell you, I've been around the block for a while. And when you start to rearrange what's in front of you, it literally, it happens every time. All these people just come flowing in that align better with you, because what did you say? Like attracts like, right?
That's true.
Yeah. It just opens, just all these pathways open, and it just naturally, everything shifts and you're happier. You can't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most important things in loving yourself is to have the confidence to make shifts in your relationships.
Yeah.
I think
it's hard. I think that's
Very,
hard. Think
very
about
hard.
someone in their like 50s and 60s who are in these like toxic relationships and marriages and partnerships. And I think that's such a hard time to make that difficult decision. But, you're not going to get change unless you make a change.
Right. Right. No, I agree. All right. Process your fears.
Yeah. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think if you can put that aside, it allows you to make those mistakes that allow you to grow, that allow you to make change, which allows you to do more. And I think you can define yourself in one way. And when you're open to facing those fears, you're changing how your brain responds to different stimuli, and it becomes less and less scary when you can face your fears, just like anxiety and panic attacks. What is the one thing that we say? Like, face it, like come right up to it. Say, I don't care. Come. Panic attack, come on, like bring it on, and desensitize yourself to it. Like, I'm in control. Like, you're not in control. And maybe you were at one point in my life, but nope, like bring it on. It will go away. And the more you do that, it will become less and less and less. And at some point, it doesn't trigger that type of response anymore. You might feel anxious still, but you're not being able to breathe, and your arms are tingling, and you feel like you're going to have a heart attack and drop to the floor. It's really facing that fear, but there's so many fears in a given day that we go through, every single day.
Wow. I love how you framed that. So you guys, this is why you're so good at what you do. And how you face your fears. That was great. Trust yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think this comes back to like another part of that like foundation when you're trying to build that foundation is, if these things all really kind of like they all go together. So number one, trusting yourself, we oftentimes like people, we just like will doubt ourselves because of worrying about what other people think or living up to societal expectations, things like that. But it's important to remember that the way that you feel about something is equally valid and important, and to validate those feelings with yourself. And remember, like at the end of the day, your experience is your experience and no one else knows that experience better than you. And so who better to trust than yourself, but part of that I think means taking the time to get to know yourself and being, and it goes back to what Brianne was just talking about, knowing what your fears are, knowing what your insecurities are, knowing the barriers that, stand in your way, while intimidating to have to kind of learn that about yourself and process those things. It really is ultimately what's going to allow you to trust yourself because you've done the reflection and the work to get there.
And I think that impacts your intuition.
Right.
So the more you trust yourself, the more you have that intuition of this person is toxic or this situation is not for me. And you can feel confident about it no matter what the situation. I have one of my students actually texted me the other day and she's like, my preceptor's out. They want me to see 15 patients. 3 of them are new and I'm going to be alone. And, what do I do? And I was like, what does your intuition tell you to do? And she said, stay home. And I said, stay home. Like, don't put yourself in a situation that's unsafe. And, unfortunately, that is the situation. Like, there's just such a need. But, I wanted to turn it back to her. Like, she knew the answer all along. And, I think if we can trust ourselves, then we get that feeling and then we know like this is the way, this is the path I need to follow.
Seize the day.
Carpe diem.
That's right. I took Latin too.
Yeah.
It's about all I remember. Yeah. Seize the day.
I mean, I feel like this one like really speaks for itself. I mean, don't be afraid to take risks, because you just really never know how some of those opportunities are gonna turn out. Timing of things might not be the right way, or it's not the perfect situation, but sometimes
don't have analysis paralysis.
Right, exactly. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith.
You just gotta go.
Yeah. And you know what? And also remember that if it doesn't turn out the way you want, we make mistakes and you'll figure it out and you'll push through. You'll come out on the other side.
Yeah. I think, I did hospice for a long time, and when you're face to face and seeing death over and over and over and over again, I mean, I probably witnessed hundreds of deaths in a period of time. And, I think that's the lesson learned is you're happy you wake up in the morning. You're happy you can walk. You're happy that you can eat. You're happy that you can drive your car. You're happy that you can eat dinner with your family. You're grateful for the little things in life. And, not everybody can do that. Grief and death and dying is very hard for a lot of people. It's a huge fear for a lot of people. But what an amazing lesson that I learned about life many, many years ago being forced to have to deal with situations like that. And it does. It helps you to wake up and say, like, today's a new day and I'm going to make the best of this day. And it might not be a good day, but I'm going to wake up saying it's going to be a good day versus rolling out of bed and saying, it's another day. I don't want to go to school. It's going to suck. Everybody sucks. I don't want to do it. You know, if you change that and you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to have the best day that I can have today,
Right.
because it's a new day, your day is going to go totally different than if you start out with the negative mindset.
Right. Right. Agree, Hannah?
Yeah. Oh, cosign.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
If
Can I
you're
get
just
an amen up
tuning
in
in,
here?
if you're just tuning in, she was wondering if we could say hell. No, but she said H-E double hockey
Yeah.
stick. Is that what
Just
you
like,
said?
yeah, which is like,
I had heard that. That was like so dorky. I'm like, oh my gosh.
H-E double hockey stick.
How do you know that? That's like
Because
my time.
I mean, people used to say that all the time, and I was a kid too.
Oh, they did.
I love it.
Okay. All right. This one's good because this is, I feel like we need to ring a bell here in a minute, but we're gonna talk about putting ourselves first, and then we're gonna do some fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I know. So yes. So put yourself first. So what does that mean when you actually say put yourself first? Is that selfish?
No. I tell people this all the time. Like, you need.
Why is it not selfish? You're being so selfish. You're putting yourself first.
Well, so this is where I get on my podium and my pedestal, because I think, and I know that selfish by nature is like not a good word, but sometimes it's okay to be selfish, because by being selfish, that means you're choosing to do something for yourself, right? So it doesn't always have to be a bad thing to be selfish. You know, gosh, if you didn't have any level of selfishness, then you wouldn't do anything for yourself. But in order for you to take care of others, for you to be your best for yourself and for others, you have to put yourself first. And that can look many different ways, whether that's, you know, taking yourself on a walk, or getting to bed at a good time, or, you know, reading a book at night for 10-15 minutes to decompress. Like, it can look however. In nursing school, they used to call it self-greening, which I loved. And so, yeah, anything that looks like for you, but it's super important to do that, because your love tank's going to be pretty empty if you're not taking care of yourself.
I always think of being on the airplane, and what do they say?
Yeah.
In the event of, cabin pressure loss, the mask's going to fall down and oxygen's flowing, even if you don't see it, but make sure you put it on yourself first. And that is so true.
And then you're like, what? But my
Yeah.
child, right?
Yeah. But you have to take care of you first. And I love that, we've been able to talk about what some self-care strategies are. And, I had this conversation with one of my patients today, who's just the life is being sucked out of her from her work environment. It's toxic. It's not good. And I've wrote her 2 letters, get out of work, go, you love to do your nails, go get your nails done. You like to go get your hair done, go do that. You like to go tanning, go do things for you. And she's she will not do it. She will not do it. And this has been a conversation for 2 weeks now. And I talked to her a few hours ago, and she's like, I'm going to take the day off tomorrow. And I said, finally, what was your epiphany that you came to that realization that you are burning yourself out? This is not a good situation. And she's like, well, I kept hearing it and I kept hearing it. I said, but what made you change? Mm-hmm. What made you change? And, she had to come to that realization that she has to put herself first, because it's impacting how she's thinking. It's impacting her relationship. She's doubting her relationships. I mean, what can happen psychologically to us if we don't put ourselves first really can be dangerous, and it's just time out. Do something for you in whatever capacity that is that makes you feel good.
Okay. So if you have been watching any of the promos, and we have a sponsor, And our sponsor this evening is Blurred Lines Med Spa, and their website is scrolling on the ticker. They have graciously given us a $225 red, I know, right? Red carpet facial to one lucky winner. And I'm gonna draw it old school because I don't know. I guess I could have gotten one of those.
A
No, I like
spinner?
this.
A bingo
No,
spinner?
this is old school. Old school. Okay, so we're just gonna like.
I love that you took the time to
I
create that, and
did. I did.
and I love that they're like sponsoring this
Yeah,
because
that's awesome.
this is like woman power, and you know, and that is like key to support each other, and nothing is better than a facial.
I don't know. I'm afraid to read it. Oh gosh, I don't have my glasses on. Jean Schneider.
Yay, Jean.
Yay, Jean.
We're
Go first,
Jean Schneider gets a facial. Jean, if you're watching, you just won. I will reach out to you and give you all the information. Oh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
This is so fun. Yeah, I had to like scroll through like Instagram and Facebook and like
Awesome.
I have put different posts and I'm like grabbing everything. But yeah, so we got a nice response to that. So I thought
That's great. Well, good
Yay.
job,
if you're
Jean.
not in town, I'm sorry, but you know, maybe
It will be
next time
waiting.
yeah.
It will be
Well,
waiting.
yeah. Yes, but if you're out of the area and you entered, I don't know, maybe I don't know. Well, we'll see. Anyway, but Jean, that's great. All right. So we are. So that is self-care, a facial that we were just talking about that, right?
Yeah.
So important. Feel pain and joy. This is important right here. We kind of touched it a little earlier, too. You know. So why is it important to feel pain as well as joy? Because you think feeling pain, how is that good?
I think, Hannah, you say this all the time. You're like, sit with your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to feel the feelings, feel all the feels. I mean, it's just, it's very similar to what we've been talking about, which is like, you know, you have to have that level of reflection. You have to have, you know, that ability to kind of sit with discomfort and feel all the ranges of emotions, because ultimately it's what helps you to get to know yourself better.
And I think the other point is if you didn't feel all the emotions, it would be like living in San Diego, right? Like you wouldn't have, I don't know, it's just but it's like if you don't experience all the seasons, how do you know what feels good? So for us, we're in New England. We feel all the seasons, and there's some winters that are just brutal, and all of a sudden it's sunny and 50, and you would think we were in the Bahamas to us, right? We know what it feels like to be cold, snowed in. We know what it's like to have beautiful sunny weather. We know what it's like to be hot. We know. So I feel like that is a good analogy to our emotions. If we don't feel pain and if we don't feel sadness, how on earth would we know what joy feels like?
Yeah.
You would have no perspective.
Right.
Am I right? Yeah. I don't know.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I say to patients, like,
please stop me if I'm wrong, because you guys are the professionals.
Like sometimes like patients will say like, well, I got upset about this and I shouldn't. And I'm like, whoa, that's an appropriate thing to get upset about. And actually a lot of times I'll say to people, I actually would be more concerned if you weren't getting upset about something, because that means that you don't care. And if you don't feel anything, then you probably don't care. And I don't want you to not care. I want you to care. I want you to have feelings. I want you to have emotions about things, because it's healthy. It's healthy to have those feelings.
And I think it's scary if you don't have those feelings. You know, think about a 7-year-old child with autism who might feel for the first time love or enjoyment, or something in their life, like that can be scary and overwhelming. And, so if we can normalize feeling the whole spectrum of emotions, you're not afraid to feel them. People don't want to fall in love with somebody after they've had their heart broken because they don't want to feel that way again.
Right.
But if you put yourself in that situation to try to feel that way again, you can realize that it can be better than what it was before.
Right.
That you grow with these emotions, that you grow with these challenges, that you grow with grieving somebody. And, I think it is important for that reason, that if we don't feel, then we fear.
Yeah.
So our screen is frozen, but I
Oh.
can still hear you. Can you see me?
Yeah, you're frozen.
But a good frozen picture. You're not looking.
Oh, thank God.
You're not looking like a hot mess frozen.
Oh.
I think we're okay, Hannah.
Yeah, I think we are. All right, Brianne, it's our show. Let's go.
I
know. Take over. Oh my God, it's literally just us. This is chaotic.
We'll be back. I think it's
we all make mistakes.
Yeah. No, I think the next section was to be bold. So,
she was bold. She said, I'm out of here.
We're going to be bold, and continue on in your absence.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I think we've wrapped everything up. I hope she hops back in.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, there's a lot of good strategies out there, and we definitely hope that everybody can take some of these interventions and really be able to love yourself better and do good things for you and do things that you really enjoy doing for you.
Yeah. And I don't know if he's coming back, but I guess we'll just wrap up there. And thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.